the Council's website. Could I ask IT colleagues to start the record? Okay, Lynn, over to you for the centering and any apologies.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. If you hear your name, can you confirm your attendance, please? Councillor Reid.
Here.
Councillor McMahon.
Yeah, Lynn, thanks.
Councillor Cowan.
Here.
Councillor Linton.
Here.
Councillor Barton.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn.
Councillor Douglas.
Here, Lynn.
Councillor Ingram.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn.
Councillor Maitland.
Here.
Councillor Mabin.
Yeah, thanks.
Councillor Watts.
Here, Lynn, thank you.
Thank you, and we have an apology this morning from Councillor Filson.
Thanks, Lynn. Okay, first item is the declaration of interest. Is there, or are there any declaration anybody wishes to make? No, we'll go straight on to item 2 then, and that's the service improvement plans 24-27, and Ian Tuffle introduce us. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Morning, members. Just very short introduction from myself for this item. Service improvement plans are a key part of the Council's performance management framework. You'll recall members having approved the detailed service improvement plans back in 2024. These are 3-year plans, and we take the opportunity once within that 3-year term to bring updates back to Cabinet. So heads of service within the Deputy Chief Executive's portfolio are in attendance today. David might want to say a couple of words just before bringing in Blair, Andrew and David. But as I said, these are updates to the service improvement plans. They provide a look back on progress to date and also provide an indication of some of the priorities for those services going forward as well, Chair. So with those comments, perhaps David might want to say something in advance of David McDowell, then Andrew and then Blair doing a short input. Thanks.
To be honest, Chair and members, I'm still adjusting to the new role and still finding my feet. So on the basis that nobody knows these services better than our heads of service, and rather than adopt a position of spray on expertise to tell members what we've all just read in the paper anyway, I would just hand you over. All 3 heads of service are available to take you through the headlines in terms of these updates, and I would just, without further ado, pass you on to colleagues.
Thanks, David. Okay.
Through you, Chair.
David. Okay, David, yeah.
Yep, through you, Chair. I'll just take you through the kind of highlights of economic growth service. Obviously, the report sets out how that as of the 1st of June, we've moved over to a shared service, and the detailed figures and the actions detailed within the report set out the proposals and actions and the delivery for the last financial year. So just to highlight some of the kind of key highlights, obviously, in terms of operational aspect, we've been successful in receiving £50,000 from the Scottish Government, and doing that's helped us to develop the regional intelligence hub, and that's the kind of starter that we're working with Scottish Government and Glasgow City Council and their intelligence unit to take that forward. So that work was started in the last financial year. Is that ongoing, and I'll be able to provide future updates on that. In terms of other kind of key areas, the regional economic strategy is obviously we were going into the delivery plan actions, and we've worked with all strategic partners to deliver an action plan. That action plan has been approved by the Regional Economic Partnership, the Joint Committee, and the funding for that in this financial year will be through the Local Growth Fund. And again, there'll be a further report coming back to members just setting out how that's going to be delivered within East Ayrshire. In terms of the last financial year, Shared Prosperity Fund was coming to an end, but economic development's sharing that was to have CAPEX grants, and you can see in the report that we've successfully delivered 26 grant, which is CAPEX funding to a whole range of businesses, which has been quite successful. Moving on, we were obviously working with Joe McLaughlin and his team at the time to look to take forward the cross-cutting review for employability, and that work was completed and successful move over from economic growth to education skills. In terms of the work we've been carried out in terms of net zero with businesses, the business community, there's been significant work carried out there, and we've achieved 99 business support areas where there's been a alignment of, funding, CAPEX funding, support, energy audit, and helping to do net zero recruitment incentives. So that is good feedback from businesses. We've also, in terms of support to businesses for the Ayrshire Skills Investment Fund, with employer grants, provided significant support across East Ayrshire for providing grants to individuals within business to stay upskill in some of the kind of key areas. We've also looked to maximise through the grant funding for Whiteley Wind Farm, the support to employability programme, which has been successful. And we've also coupled to that, we've taken forward the work we're doing with the 9cc group, where in the last financial year we saw the recruitment of 20 apprentices being concluded within Emergency 1 and moving forward the recruitment within EGA this financial year. We will be coming back just to set out the work we're doing in 9cc in terms of the £1.5 million funding to provide the apprenticeships on an annual basis, which is significant, will provide a significant positive impact for the Cumbernauld Valley community. In terms of the specialisms for the Regional Economic Partnership in terms of food and drink visitor economy, the businesses within East Ayrshire have been supported by £123,000 of funding for 26 businesses, which have really helped to support those businesses, to help them with either start-up, progress and growth in both the food and hospitality sectors. In terms of development planning and regeneration, work obviously continues with LDP3 and significant work has been progressed there. We've, through the team, the work in the last financial year has identified that significant progress with the key agencies group, and that has helped to take forward the Irvine Valley flood study. And we've also looked within the team to complete the works to Mockling Tars, Coalfield Landscape Partnership funding, and also the work to transfer East Ayrshire to the Leisure Trust. In terms of growth deal projects, we've seen the development of the Ayrshire Innovation Park. That work's obviously progressing well, look to be completed by the end of the year and targeted at November. We've also seen the core project move forward in a number of key areas and Marcourt and other kind of training programmes that we've delivered through external providers to help support the work with both apprenticeship and upskilling within the automobile area. Core, we have been working with the UK and Scottish Government for a period of time to get the fundamentals changed and the principles for the core change management process, and that would allow us to deliver the multi-site programme within the Cumbernauld Valley area for vocational training, and that has been approved just over the last fortnight. So that being the case, we can now move forward to final business case. Just to kind of sum up then, other works that we've been progressing, the Ayrshire Energy Master Plan and the local heat of energy efficiency strategy. That work has been well founded, and there's a report going up to the Regional Economic Partnership to take forward the initial start-up of the delivery of the Ayrshire Energy Master Plan. We've also seen the 5G external funding been delivered right across East Ayrshire and the region in its whole. That has delivered support to tourism locations such as the Dean Castle and the Dick Institute, where there's now improved connectivity. We've also seen a number of businesses that have directly been supported through this programme that have gave them a real step up in terms of 5G connectivity to change their business model and to improve their efficiency and delivery and support their growth. So in terms of last area of the service was the PMO, and I think nothing more can be said about this other than the delivery assurance work that they've progressed over the last 12 months and been seen to be completed within the last couple of months there, that has allowed us to rebalance the Ayrshire growth deal and allow to ensure that we're going to be delivering that within the terms of the deal. So I think overall, Chair, that's a look back. We've all been obviously bringing reports moving forward about how the shared service is going to be delivered, what the key actions are. Those actions, a lot of those are predicated on the local growth fund and the regional economic strategy delivery plan that was approved by the partnership at the end of May. And now we're just waiting for confirmation of funding. Once that funding is approved, we can then look at how that's going to be delivered within the region and obviously set out the benefits for East Ayrshire businesses. So with that, happy to answer any questions, Chair.
Thanks, David. Just giving a couple small points. Just one in terms of some of the business grants, things that you've been able to do to support business. I was pleased to attend the openings at Atlantic Tiles in Dunfinny Street last night, and speaking to the business owners. They were praised your own service for some of the business support that they gave, and that's managed to put a really strong retail unit in a building that's been lying empty for some time. So pleased to see that indeed. And there was a number of other local businesses there that were were taking heart from what's going on there, and some of the transformation, including next door at the old Kilmarnock Post Office, where I know there's been some considerable work going on recently from Buzzworks. So that's good to see as well. But the other wee point I was good to make was on page 22, David, it's mentioned the Belfield interchange, and we're saying limited progress. Just got to say quite clearly, not on our part. I think we're all united around the fact that we really need to upgrade the Belfield interchange. It unlocks so much potential right across, not just East Ayrshire, but we're neighbouring authorities right across the board, and we continue to engage with both governments, Transport Scotland and MD, to make sure that we can deliver on this. So that was maybe 2 points I would like to make. And I know there's members of your staff there last night, David, so I think they'll have got the message through in terms of some of the things that we're doing in economic development. So pleased to see that. Bring in, I don't know if you want to comment on that, David, just before I bring in Jim.
Just a couple of things. Yeah, I mean, it was good that we've been working with Atlantic Tiles and obviously supporting them. There's a number of businesses that have benefited from coming into the area and starting. Obviously, the approach we take is that we help and support new startup businesses, and we don't always have money, but we can sometimes through the Be Ready programme provides additional skills, whether that's been in procurement, HR, net zero. So there's a good wealth of consultancy support that we can bring to that, along with our own advisors. In terms of Belfield interchange, the only thing we don't have is the funding, obviously, to make this right. But we have, through colleagues in ARA, looking at an updated design solution, and we're also progressing economic modelling and just to take that forward. So that is a period of time, and through the Chief Executive, we're looking to bring a report back to the Cabinet at some point in the near future.
Thanks, David. I think that's in terms of Belfield interchange. I think it's really important we bring the economic case to what it'll do in terms of potential business startups and unlocking so many issues in terms of some of the planning, particularly up Irvine Valley, doing the A76 corridor that unlocks, and in Kilmarnock. I think the economic case is pretty. We know ourselves, but it's just getting that across to others. Just it's pretty compelling. Okay, I've got Jim, then I've got Linda, and then Ian.
Thanks, Leader. Thanks very much for this, David. I hope you're settling in well to your new position. Firstly, thanks to the team behind this paper. A tremendous amount of work. We can see that what's been going into as far as economic growth goes, and that shared prosperity that we're all going to benefit out of there. Just a couple of points I want to pick out on, then one particular issue that I need to focus on. So the CCLP, and we had the privilege of visiting a lot of the sites that delivered on through the Cumnock and Doon Valley area, and it was great. It was a great site visit. We had just spent a full day going round about Cumnock, New Cumnock, Erthard and Dunmelliton. I think we take a bow, and the New Cumnock reuse hub, it's absolutely fantastic to see that actually we're coming to its conclusion and starting to prosper. Now, two fantastic buildings. Really delighted. I can recall back at the time when that bid for the RCGF fund came in, where we had a choice to make. It was either take a bow or New Cumnock reuse hub, and thankfully through some great work done with our team behind the scenes, a letter went to Scottish Government and we got the two of them. So that was fantastic, but as that 1.8 would never have came to New Cumnock, and we now see the Trotters building the way it is. Another site visit that we did out through that term again, we saw the businesses benefiting from the 5G innovation stuff, and it's been absolutely fantastic seeing how they're prospering and the growth that's coming along with them. So a fantastic site. Delighted to see as part of the core project the Marcourt finally kicking off, and I really look forward to see that coming to its conclusion. Going to make a massive difference as far as housing goes in the Cumnock area, but also for that energy saving prospect to saving money on their fuel bills as well. The one that I really want to focus on is the stuff that's been done in the apprenticeships, with the 9cc and the benefits coming for community wind power. Some fantastic work already done, as we can see that, for young people in the South Authority to help us tackle what is the big issue for us, is that depopulation issue and keeping more young people in the Cumnock and Doon Valley area. At the 9cc meeting last week, the good news is that through Prestwick SAI and Prestwick, we're signing up to an agreement and a partnership with interested parties down there, focusing on delivering apprenticeships for the Cumnock and Doon Valley area, direct into Prestwick Airport and that aviation industry. But to be able to get them there is the big issue for me, and this reads back to transport and community transport. There's a big push we know we've created, or we're looking to deliver on community transport. It's really important for these young people to be able to get to Prestwick on time for their work. So that big push for that community transport really needs to be delivered, and delivered quickly, to make sure that the opportunities that we're trying to strive for in the South Authority for the people for the Cumnock and Doon Valley are achieved. So, David, for me, it's a big thank you for the fantastic work that the team have done, not just behind the scenes, but meeting them out front. Again, I met Dermot on Sunday. He was out there at the Cumnock Fun Day, displaying the new community cars and how they're going to work, and the launch of that we know is coming soon. But there's progress been made, but some absolutely fantastic work behind the scenes. And again, just to finish off with the core project and the multi-purpose sites that's going to be out through the Cumnock and Doon Valley, again, I look forward to them coming to fruition.
Thanks, Jim. David, you want to comment?
No, thanks, and I probably, and apologies, I should have summarised the take a bow and the reuse. Those were two projects that they have. We were successful in getting that funding. We did kind of deviate and change the Scottish Government approach to how they funded rather than one grant per authority. So that has been really beneficial. And for those who haven't been in the reuse or the take a bow buildings, are fantastic and great opportunity to see what was, in one case, a vacant derelict building turned into a real asset. It really is great. And the take a bow venue as well, is obviously that went from a 70s style building to brought up to kind of current day standards. So all in all, that's been fantastic. We do, in terms of the core project, yeah, the core project we'll start to see us get into that delivery mode a wee bit further. It's taken a long while, I appreciate, but we're starting to get a bit of traction now with that, and starting to, as colleagues and elected members have probably heard before, there's a lot of external funding that we've been successful in bringing to this joint approach. In terms of apprenticeships, yeah, the apprenticeship's been really successful. Good, working relationships with a number of businesses, key businesses within the sector. The fact that we have now had the opportunity to bring, the aerospace sector to it, and have people from Cumbernauld Valley that have the opportunity to go, to get into that sector. Is wonderful, and that in the grand scheme of things, that's something that we're looking at right across the whole Ayrshire is the opportunities to get more young people into the aviation and engineering sectors. We're working with your college in that, and we will continue to work with education services about bringing grassroots engineering training for performing engineering operations in secondary schools, getting them to a point where through a modern foundation apprenticeship they can get to a point where they've got a real opportunity to choose a career in that sector. The community transport is a huge issue. I understand that. It's something that comes up every single time when we're talking about the rural communities and how to get individuals. I know there's work going on with the council to look at that, and it's part of the larger picture. We're certainly looking at how we can tap into that through the core project and help support, and probably look to see how to expand the car club and see if there's opportunities to do that wider. And I know Councillor Mann, you brought there's a kind of proposal from south of the border and how that was operated and using other community benefit funding elsewhere, and that's quite a good model. So we're looking at these things as well to join into the larger picture. So all in all, there's a lot of work going on, a lot of work continue to go on, and we are still here, and we're still Air Services actually looking at how we can develop that further and get more joint working together with other partners. So thanks for that.
Thanks, David. Of course, as Councillor McMahon and others will take about winning an award recently. Last week, a number of us were there on Saturday, and I met somebody that hadn't been since in the loch, somebody that was brought up in New Farm Loch, and they hadn't been in, as they described it, the loch for about since COVID, and they couldn't believe the transformation in the whole area down there. And it's good to see the community and everybody that's been behind that. It's been very successful indeed. Linda.
Thanks, Leader. I've got a few questions, David. I'll just give you the questions and then you can come back to me if that's okay. So if I look at the last item on page 8, it's talking about the businesses that have received the growth grants during 25-26. Just if I could get a couple of examples, the type of the businesses and the type of capital equipment and investments that were funded. Move on to the third item on page 9. Really just looking for what advantages we think has been achieved for the new structure. Has it been proven to be a better fit operationally, and might also be helpful to look at a comparison of the previous structure against the new structure to better understand any differences. Also, page 13, I'm also going to talk about the 9cc apprenticeship, slightly different for Councillor McMahon. So we've recruited 20 over the last 2 years. Just looking to see, are they all still employed? And if they are, what feedback are we getting? How are they getting on? Any outcomes that's been achieved? Page 14, the last item, it states we gave £123,000 of support to the 26 businesses. Just again, an update on the investment and any outcomes we've had for that. And my last one, I promise, is page 22, the last item, just where it says we confirm that the apprenticeship programme will continue. do we have a number of how many apprenticeships are expected to be available and in what trade or service areas? Thank you.
Chair, through yourself, just before David answers the other ones in relation to the inquiry about the development of the follow-on from the review of employability, that obviously the outcome of that review was to have it all under one roof within the education service. I have, obviously Linda's not got any items here today, so she's otherwise engaged, Linda Macaulay-Griffiths. I did speak to her, she did remind me that there was a paper to Cabinet in March in terms of the outcome of the review and the changes been made and the proposed new arrangements, and it will also feature at the next Cabinet in the Education Service Plan. And finally, she's also happy to have a meeting discussion round about some of the rest of the detail of that, if you wish. But I think, to be fair to David, given that the outcome of the review was to take from his service and place what they had within the wider employability service based in education, it's maybe better if we can pick that one up with Linda Macaulay-Griffiths, as I said, and she's happy to meet as well. But it will be touched on in the Service Improvement Plan for Education, which I think is down for the next Cabinet. But other than that, I'll let David answer all the tricky ones.
Right, okay. Yeah, so first of all, thanks for those questions, Councillor Maybe. Yeah, there is the growth grants that we received. We had 26. No, the way the funding arose in Shared Prosperity Fund, the revenue funding within Shared Prosperity went to employability, and there was over two. There was a sum of money set aside for business support under capital funding. That capital funding meant that we had to be quite specific in how we allocated that money to businesses. So we looked at, it was like capital equipment. So for instance, we had companies, such as A&L Mechanical, Braehead Foods, Brownings, the Bakers, Curtin Wise, DC Services, the list goes on, and it goes right across, the area. From those grants, those were, to give you an example, and it's maybe the simplest example, and I'll use that because we had a lot of discussion on it, is Brownings the Bakers, because one of that was a new high spec oven that they required to purchase, and we were able to look at their growth proposals and see that was going to bring forward additional persons. So that was it was an opportunity there to help them support that. It was the same with, if I take another example in the south, there was equipment help to support purchase equipment for the blinds company and Curtin Wise. So these have, and that was an area where we went to visit, because these are in terms of Curtin Wise, it's high spec equipment they've got to do that work, but it's bespoke, so they have to bring in specialist engineers to design this. And so hopefully that answers the first question. Second question, new shared service. Yeah, we're getting to grips with this. Obviously, we're just effectively staff moved over on the 1st of July. So we are looking at harmonising things. We're, in terms of the service improvement plan today, we're actually going through a series of meetings to look at a number of areas, including we've got a service level agreement between the two councils that will bring that'll be looked to be approved, so that we can make sure that all the governance arrangements are in place and secure. We're also looking at service improvement plan for this financial year, which sits at the heart of the regional economic strategy delivery plan. So that will come forward in a proposal that sets out how we're taking that forward. We've still got, because we're now a shared service led by North Ayrshire, we still have staff. All the staff from Easter, except myself, are based in East Ayrshire. So there is that element of we're still providing local delivery. We are looking at harmonising how we do processes, because all the back office work that we have in procurement, finance procurement, HR is now moved over to North Ayrshire. So we're just harmonising that and getting that into place. But It will provide a difference. It will, over a period of time, allow us to, with the new proposals we're taking forward, is we're developing a funding unit within the Economic Development Shared Service, which will help to look at funding across the region. And obviously, if we all know that UK and Scottish Government are looking at delivery of funding across regions rather than just locally, so it's how we tap into that and how we maximise that opportunity. In terms of the 9cc apprenticeships, well, yeah, we did start 20. Of the 20 were out there just earlier on in the year, and we saw that 19 of the 20 engineering. One lady had decided that engineering wasn't for her, but she got an apprenticeship within the company, within the finance section, so it still gave a real opportunity to align with the terms of our the funding requirements. In terms of the £123,000 grants, these were revenue grants for the second part in the specification, or the targets that were set out, and these related to food and drink areas where those were looking at how we supported businesses that were seeking how to either start up or grow. So it wasn't so much capex work; it was more work to provide consultancy and other areas. We've also used that funding to support them in the Ayrshire Grow proposal, which was a regional delivery model which brought money in for the 3 councils to help support businesses, and it was a bit like you had an opportunity to meet some of the key businesses that you'd be supplying to, so it was quite a bit of mentoring, but that has been successful. We're looking to bring that back as a fast track proposal in this financial year. The last question, in terms of the staffing, and I think you were referring to the move to greener communities and roads alliance. And
no, David, it was apprenticeship numbers.
Apprenticeship numbers. Sorry, could you just repeat that page again, please?
Hi, David. It was the report had confirmed that the apprenticeship programme would continue, so it's basically within the services that are moving across, but I was looking to see if we know how many apprenticeships are likely to be available. Yeah, that unfortunately is not within my scope any longer, so we can take that away and come back to you with. I'll speak to colleagues both from Manica Friel and see whether there's updated numbers there in terms of that, and colleagues in ARA as well, if that's okay. Yeah.
Linda, do you want to come back in?
Thanks for that, David. It was more. I get what you're saying, but it was just the way it was worded on the report. It was saying that the woodlands, was it the woodlands? Hang on. I need another screen. Yeah, so just while you're looking for that, just in terms of Ayrshire Woodlands, when we transferred them over, the number of apprenticeships that we transferred, they were obviously operating from East Ayrshire Woodlands, but they were still a kind of joint role with the Greener, and that once that was phased out, there was proposals to take further in this financial year, but unfortunately in this financial year I don't have that number at hand, which I can get. Through you, Chair, if it's okay. Certainly. So it was at the very top of page 23 where it just says the continued delivery of apprenticeships in forestry and rural land management. So that was basically, sorry, I should have probably said that in my question, but I did look at the Greener Communities Review and I couldn't see any definite figures or anything in it. So it was just wondering, but if we need to go away and get the figures, that's fine. Yeah, so if that's okay, Councillor Mabin, I'll
for the last financial year, we had a set number that we brought over as part of that transfer, and some of those were obviously through East Ayrshire Woodlands working with the greener communities as well. So, but in terms of what the current number is, and we can get that further information for you. Thanks.
Thanks, David. I mean, if you could circulate that to cabinet members, that'd be quite helpful. It'd be quite interesting as well. Okay, Ian.
Thanks, Leader. Yeah, it was really round about the newly set up shared action plan. Obviously, Glasgow's had great success over many decades now, going back to the Garden Festival, City of Culture, levering in external funding. I think we're absolutely correct, David, to have officers up in Glasgow City shadowing them, learning from their gained experience. So I feel this can only help and strengthen our starting point when we apply for future external funding. So I think I'd like to be kept informed, obviously, as we move forward in this, because I think it's going to be really significant in the future.
Yeah, no, thanks, Councillor Litton. Yeah, I mean, what we're going to do is obviously we'll be bringing that information directly to the Regional Economic Partnership and Joint Committee, and we will obviously look at how the best approach to bring information back to the wider councillors and elected members, so that everybody's aware of those proposals. But it is the kind of joint working arrangements are going well. And from that we'll be able to start to look at how best to set up. We've also we've been successful through that joint working arrangement with some work that pilot programme that was done through Scottish Government. We've now got an opportunity to look at how best to set out the Regional Intelligence Hub. So that's quite promising as well. But that gives us the basis when we're looking at these external funds to set up how we're going to bid for those and how we will take them forward. And obviously those bids, while they come in at regional level, some bids will be for the specific council, some bids will be for either two of the three councils, depending on given if it's a coastline or whatever, and other bids will be fully regional. So, but we'll continue to work with other colleagues on how we best take that forward. But we'll bring that information back in due. Thanks.
Graham.
Thanks, Dougie. Thanks, David. Basically, it's the updated Urban Valley flood study. It's looking at completion and run about autumn 26. I think this is going to be a really important report that will come to us, especially for Kilmarnock Town Centre and the surrounding areas. So my ask is, can we get early sight of this at the earliest opportunity, or maybe even have a councillor conversation at the time? Because this is really important, especially when we've got our master plan coming down the road. And David, the Whiteley Skills and Employability Programme, I love that. It's great use of wind farm money. The benefit funds can build a real kind of legacy in this area through training and employment opportunities. And the report's telling us already 23 apprenticeships, 15 graduate apprenticeships. And I take it you'll be on this, but you've got an eye on that Whiteley's might be repowering at some point in the future, and there might be opportunities there to enhance and maybe progress that. And finally, I'd like to thank the leader for highlighting obviously the Q8 roundabout, Belfield interchange. It's something we're all Ward 4 councillors are really pushing for as well, and I really appreciate the work the deputy leader's done in that space. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. No, thanks, Councillor Barton. Yeah, I mean the work there with that study, that council conversation is something that I'll take back through Karen Purvis and Palmer Clifford and arrange, and obviously Jane Corey, because it's a cross-service piece of work that needs to come to back through elected members so that they've got an awareness of what that study is highlighting at an early course. So I'll take that away as an action for other colleagues, but that's a valid point. In terms of Whiteley Skills Fund, yeah, I mean that was conceived to help support businesses and get local people into local work. It's been successful. We've taken taken a part of that money and worked with Linda Macaulay Griffiths and her team to help support them deliver setting up modern and foundation apprenticeships in all the secondary schools. So that work is ongoing. Martin Robertson's leading in that, and that's to the credit if we can get that up to a point where we've got young people who are, getting opportunities to see vocational training linked into the business, businesses, then that would be great. We've obviously trialled this through the growth deal and through the food and drink sectors with Loudon, bringing in businesses into that, and other businesses are quite keen to, they were certainly in the food and drink sector, but got other businesses such as Emergency One looking to do the similar in engineering. So there is a wide number of businesses out there that can help to participate in this. We want to use that money to help support it. Lastly, in terms of repowering, we have been in constant dialogue with Scottish Power, the senior staff there at Scottish Power Renewables. We've had early indication from them that they were looking at this. They've now made that it was all kind of quite quiet. Cabinet members will remember there's a report that comes up annually to set out the wind farm community benefits, and there was an action from that for us to go and speak to Scottish Power Renewables. And from that, they've now made the public announcement. So that will ultimately get to a point where, when they through the planning process, if they're successful, then they will have an opportunity to look at how that repowering provides a positive impact and upgrading of the pounds per megawatt in each turbine. Because if members in the grants committee will be aware, it's about £1,000 or £2,500 depending on what site and within Whiteley you've got it for, rather than the £5,000 or in some cases £6,000 per megawatt that has now been provided by developers. So it could see a significant positive impact in the local communities in terms of additional funding. And so we'll continue to work with them on that. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, David. Yeah, I think that's right to highlight, Graham, the importance of a Severn Valley flood study, and if we can have, some kind of seminar sooner rather than later would be really helpful. And continue to press Transport Scotland and both governments, and then they will help us with the issue of the Belfield interchange, and that's really up there in terms of our priorities, and hopefully we get something back down, as I think we're entitled to in terms of the repowering issue. I think we're morally obliged to get a better return and more investment into our communities. So all really good points. Members, any else want to come in? Okay, page 29. Andrew.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to present the Facilities and Property Management Improvement Plan that demonstrates a strong and sustained progress across a broad and complex portfolio. The services have continued to operate in a very challenging environment with significant change and external pressures. However, I would hope you would appreciate the progress has remained positive. A particular strength is the delivery against the Phase 2 Best Value Review, with 34 of the 36 actions now completed. This is reinforced by the positive independent assurance from the Improvement Service thematic review of asset management, identifying good practice and required no improvement actions. This reflects the overall approach to asset management and delivery of both the capital programme and managing our property estate. Robust Prince 2 project governance is embedded across the Council. The Property Management Plan is supporting estate rationalisation, and an estate-wide retrofit toolkit has been developed for the next stage of building decarbonisation. Council emissions are 64% below the 2012-2013 baseline. However, going forward, buildings remain our biggest challenge. The service is also making a strong contribution to tackling poverty. Free school meals have been extended across Primary 1 to Primary 7. Half-price secondary school meal deals have been introduced, and funding early years children receiving free meals. Community and commercial catering have now transferred to Ayrshire 360, allowing the retained services to focus on supporting education and skills. Workforce progress is another positive feature. Investors in People Gold has been maintained, with our next assessment in October this year. Apprenticeships and graduate surveying posts around the building services side have been developed, and absence is reduced by 20% in the first quarter. We will work further with colleagues in People and Culture to focus on succession planning, recruitment and retention. Further work is now focused on implementing a new property management system, completing a revised asset management framework, addressing the recruitment and further aspects of our workforce strategy, and completing service self-assessments after the corporate best value process. Looking ahead, priorities include reviewing of the transfer of property responsibilities with Ayrshire 360, a 5-year component renewal plan, further net zero investment and expanding breakfast club provision. The development of our local Good Food Nation plan and the strategic transport review will also shape the direction of the service going forward. Overall, this is a strong plan showing credible delivery, independent assurance and a clear focus on the remaining challenges. I wanted to keep it brief and obviously let you come in with questions, so I'll leave it there and happy to take questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Barry.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Andrew, for your report. Just first of all, a couple of positives, I think, in terms of Appendix 2, page 30, in terms of tackling poverty and inequality and the free school meals and the half-price school meals. You know, I'm delighted that we took the decision as we did, cross-party, particularly thanks to the administration for backing our proposals, our original proposals on half-price school meals and how they've extended across there. And we know the uptake has been probably beyond what we'd even hoped for, which is really positive news. And obviously we need to make sure we do all we can to keep that quality of our school meals up, to make sure kids in our schools and our young people are taking full advantage of a decent school meal rather than maybe going out to some of the hot food vans. In terms of the development of the younger workforce plans with apprentice and graduate opportunities across all facilities, can you maybe give us some more detail around that? I mean, obviously good to see that there's been good progress on that. Overall, a good report. Andrew, thank you for that. The other point I wanted just to tap into was that in terms of, and I know this is a feature in every one of these, is that the corporate target reducing the gender pay gap. See obviously limited progress there. Disappointing, but I can understand sometimes how that can happen depending on how many vacancies you have over a year and who's obviously applying. But maybe if you can give us a bit more on that in terms of how we can seek to further reduce that in future. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I would agree that in terms of the half-price school meals and the extension of the free school meals has been really positive. We have seen an overall increase in the uptake in the secondary schools. There are a couple of areas we're continuing to work with, and you'll see that in the further recommendations. Certainly, that piece about I suppose the point of sale, the branding, the communication is an area where we're going to work with education on to develop some further work around that. And obviously, again, continuing to look at the menus. As things kick off today, there will be new product ranges and menus that are obviously on the website, and new products and stuff will be available in the schools as well. Again, just to try and keep things fresh and interesting. In terms of the younger workforce, over the last, I mean, consistently, we've always had sort of modern apprentice roles within the service across the sort of business admin, the FM and the catering service. At the moment, we've got about 6 kind of active modern apprentice and graduate apprenticeships across the service. We're probably looking at a couple of additional ones in catering now that the new term started. In the last kind of 2 years, as well as the additional, the current 6, there's probably been about 14 that we've had that have come in and either completed their courses or have actually left prematurely to go on and get jobs as well. So I think they've all kind of went on to some sort of positive outcome. I mean, clearly we're keen to kind of build on those pathways for them once they're completing it and staying within the service. We've got So the modern apprenticeships, particularly in FM, are kind of 1 year, your catering's 2 years, and then we've got a couple of graduate apprenticeships as well within the sort of property side as well, sort of looking at building maintenance, surveying, quantity surveying as well, and they're, all of them have added a real positive contribution to the service.
Thanks, Andrew. I think there's widely, I think there's a good news story to tell there about what we're doing apprenticeships between, we've heard from Whiteley's to 9cc right through all our services, just what we're achieving. I think there's, the wider public out there are maybe unaware, that this is something that we've all been striving for, for a number of years now. And I think there's a story very much to be told. And I think that would be useful if we can maybe get a comms team to maybe work something up in that, just to kind of, to be helpful for parents and prospective apprenticeships as well, just to, where they can go. Councillor Watts. Neil.
Thank you, Leader. No, thank you very much, Andrew. I think overall this is a very positive report. Certainly the work, obviously school meals, as Councillor Douglas has mentioned, there's cross-party support there for that, and obviously everything that we're doing with apprenticeships. I just want to ask one question. On page 34, item 11, delivering the Clean Green East Ayrshire with the pilot renewable technologies. Has he got any examples of some of these projects, and have they actually delivered that sort of value for money and cost savings for the council that these renewables are supposed to do? Thank you.
So, Andrew.
Thanks, Chair. I think that there's a number of those, and to be fair, probably David, in terms of the core project, is very much that kind of key delivery arm at the moment. We have obviously across the estate invested significantly in the building management systems as well over that period of time, and that has given us a significant level of control and information on the day-to-day use of the information that we've got. Obviously, a number of the nurseries that we invested in have the sort of heat pump and smart storage technology. So those things have been implemented. St Sophia's as well is obviously the other one that's been delivered. I think for St Sophia's, obviously the theoretical information is very positive, and obviously over the next year we'll be able to kind of get a real handle on what the evidence says around that, and obviously that will link in to the other projects that have already been mentioned through the core project, the housing in Cumnock, etc. as well, that will build on that information.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Okay, Graham.
Thanks, Councillor Reid. Andrew, thanks for the report. I think most of the comments today have been positive. It's a really good report. 34 out of the 6 best value review actions now complete. We've obviously had that positive independent assurance for Audit Scotland as well. I mean, council emissions down 64%, but as you quite rightly highlight, we're really, the buildings are going to be a difficult task, so we'll look forward to seeing how we go forward there. And tackling poverty, that's what drives, well, it certainly drives me, and I know it drives my colleagues, and I'm really particularly proud about what we've delivered in the free school meals, especially P1 to P7s and the half-price school meals, and obviously we're going to have the breakfast clubs going forward. So thanks for the report, Andrew.
Thanks, Graham. Linda.
Thanks very much, Leader. I've really just got a couple of comments about the part of the report for Andrew there. If I go to page 35, item 15, just to congratulate the team on maintaining the Gold Award standard. At page 37, 38, item 21, the absence level reduced by 20% in the first quarter. We'll need to find out what your secret is and share it out. And another couple of good news points. Page 41, item 28. Personally, I'm really pleased to see the introduction of this general assistant role. I think it appears to provide greater flexibility and variety for employees, rather than sort of restricting them to a very narrowly defined role, and probably would work better for the council as well. And finally, item 26 on page 40, when we're talking about the new apprentices, it's an excellent news story. I think we do need to get that out there, social media and other communication channels, and see, because there used to be apprenticeships for 10 a penny with every business round about, and now they're not, and it's good to see the council is doing this in so many different areas. So I think instead of just being the bad news that gets out there, let's sell what we're doing.
Yeah.
I think that's a very good point. We're certainly striving to fill that gap, because the gap's there, and we need to provide that kind of hope for young people, absolutely, and right across the board. Okay, that's. Oh, sorry, Claire. Councillor Maitland. No, just start with this again. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. I don't want to overemphasise everything that's already been said, but I think just something to note for the background, since especially concerning the food deliveries in school and the energy efficiencies that we see in points 8 to 14. Since 2020, food has gone up 37 to 39%. So the fact that we are still able to deliver within our schools these meals for 1 to 7 and the food deals we've talked about is incredibly important. I think sometimes getting out the good news stories is excellent, but also getting out what goes on in the background as well, and how we're still managing to achieve the food delivery for schools. And energy prices are 83% up since 2020. And I think in Andrew's paper, when you see it on points 8 to 14, we're actually doing very well. So it's another story that we need to get out there with the background behind what we're up against. Thank you very much.
No, very good point, Claire, absolutely. And it's a continuing challenge. Barry?
I think just to add to what Councillor Maitland has said there, for the naysayers when it comes to net zero, given the amount of work that's been done, given energy prices and where they're going, it can only be a good thing that we're investing in our buildings, in the technology, to make sure that we're as energy efficient as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point there. Andrew, do you want to come in? Just conclude.
Yeah, maybe just pick up a couple of points that have been raised. I think that obviously investors and people is a real critical aspect from my point of view, and obviously from the service point of view. It is very much an internal service that delivers with a huge number of local people, and clearly that issue around the gender pay gap, clearly particularly within catering and FM, obviously the majority of that staff is low-paid female workforce, mainly part-time as well. So really that sort of focus on that and the support around that is really important. Clearly the absence management issue, I think particularly in support of the team and the line management and the operational managers who are involved in actually delivering that is really where the credit goes, in terms of the diligence in applying the policy, and also the focus support from people in culture. I think I maybe just wanted to make one point around that, which is the number of really complex cases and the challenges that people are having across, not just from a work point of view, but also their wider health and community issues. And I think the support of the independent review panel, I think, has been really helpful in progressing these cases, as well as, I think, giving managers stronger understanding and confidence in dealing with people, particularly where there's some real complex ill health issues that they need to be managed. So I think that's probably one of the key areas where I think we've made a shift in the last year to try and address that. I think in terms of net zero, I think one of the challenges, and we've said it previously, and obviously linked to the capital investment, is the funding, and we know that that's going to be a challenge. I think Scottish Government have recently announced further investment through their CARES funding, which is the Community and Renewable Fund, and we've obviously accessed a number of those to support individual community organisations. Angela's coming up with a paper next, which is around CAT transfer, which very much links into that agenda. So, again, trying to maximise those opportunities. We're still in discussions with the Scottish Government and SFT around the LEAP funding, which we hope to maximise for the Doon campus, but also looking at what potentially further announcements might be around that to help. Clearly, our school estate is still our biggest asset across the council, so the more funding and support we can get around that area, I think would start to make an impact. And as I said, I think some of that day-to-day stuff that we've been doing and clearly working with education, looking at some of the climate change promotional activity that's been done and working with the young people, again, is trying to address those aspects as well. So I think all in all, I suppose as much of an integrated approach as we can across the council, although this is just obviously our service improvement plan. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Thanks very much, Andrew. Okay, the next final one, improvement plan is housing and communities, and Blair will take us through it. Blair Marr.
Thank you, Leader, and good morning, members. Members, overall, Housing and Communities has made good progress against the 24 to 27 Service Improvement Plan, with the majority of actions either being achieved or demonstrating good progress. The key message is that services within this portfolio haven't just maintained service delivery and performance over this period. Rather, it's used reviews and restructuring and redesign to improve performance, create a stronger platform for the next phase of service improvement plans. And I'll now summarise some of the key areas. In housing and housing asset services, the Housing Investment Programme and the Strategic Housing Investment Programme are very much in delivery alongside the Housing Asset Management Framework. Void performance has improved significantly, with void rent loss reducing from 1.6% in March 24 to 0.8% in March 26. Tenant safety arrangements have been strengthened through the establishment of our dedicated tenant safety team, and that the new local housing strategy has been approved in this period, as has the housing need and demand assessment been completed, and that we've implemented our annual chat tenancy visit programmes. In homelessness, there's been a significant progress in delivering on our rapid rehousing transition plan and minimising the time spent within temporary accommodation, especially for families with children. Tenant participation has also been strengthened through our new consultation forums and the Tenant Satisfaction Survey Action Plan. Staff development is a really strong thread, and I'm delighted that the services continue to invest in the apprenticeship programme so significantly. That we have our Lead On Leadership and Development Programme that's been delivered and is providing a really structured approach to staff development. And again, it's important to recognise the good work to continue to deliver on the WorkSafe programme and equally safe in practice training, some of which are delivered via Toolbox Talks. I'm also pleased to note, members, that the Welfare Rights Service has successfully integrated the Financial Inclusion Team and the Universal Credit Support Team. Moving forward, the emphasis needs to shift from programme delivery to quality, compliance, customer experience and prevention, particularly in areas such as homelessness prevention, temporary accommodation, tenant safety, maintenance performance, stock condition and preparation for social housing net zero standards. In greener communities, the review has been completed with work underway to support a successful transition to Ayrshire 360. Waste has undergone substantial transformation. The waste review has been implemented, with financial savings achieved as anticipated, while extended producer requirement compliance has been introduced. Moving forward, the focus is on completing the infrastructure improvements at Galath and Western Roads, maximising household waste recycling centre capacity, and exploring more efficient ways to carry out bulky uplifts, with a continued focus on realising both the financial and environmental benefits of the waste review. In regulatory services, the Forward programme provides a really clear focus for the service, a new online food business registration system, implementation of the Food Law Enforcement Recovery Plan, income generation opportunities, and improved customer service platforms. All focus is always on maintaining and improving statutory compliance and public protection. Overall, Housing and Communities has demonstrated strong delivery financial discipline and a willingness to redesign services. The next phase is about moving from individual service improvements to whole system transformation. The opportunity is to better use data, stronger partnerships and new operating models to deliver services that are more preventative, efficient, sustainable and that visibly improve the quality of life in East Ayrshire. Thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks. So maybe just pass you over to Jim first of all.
Thanks, Blair. Thanks for the paper. Once again, thank you to the team behind bringing this paper and the improvements that's been made on it. If I can just pick up on one or two things on it that you had mentioned. It's one about that rent void, and I think you mentioned 24 was 1.6, 0.8, 26, which is always commendable. I've nearly been here 10 years, and it was just going back, because I remember how bad it was, is looking at the particular type of figures over that last 10 years. I know this review is just then, but for my interest, it's gone back 10 years and what that was to where we currently sit now. The waste review that you mentioned, and delighted to see the rollout of the new Binzagoat mine last week. Just to see how that's actually gone. I know it's been rolled out in the South Authority, the kind of response for that and where that currently sits. Paragraph 13, where you mentioned, although you didn't mention any, it was about the UNCRC and the right of the child there, and where we go and take in the views of our young people as we go forward with everything that we do in housing. I know there's developments coming up, particularly in my area, and I'd like to, the views run about play areas and that type of thing that's in that housing development, to listen to the young people in that and what they're saying. I think what we've got, and I think Councillor Maitland touched on inflationary costs earlier on in relation to food. I know there will be a potential risk to both the hip and the ship in the delivery on that as inflation hits and rises. There have been articles on the news this week running about government targets and the potential that the inflationary measures are going to have on the impact of delivering what the targets are. There's also another article, I think it's worth the note here, running about rough sleeping this morning, and providing issues for adequate housing and the legal obligation behind that, just about rough sleeping in East Ayrshire. And as far as the tenant surveys go, that's good and no ongoing. I was talking to somebody at the weekend, took great pleasure in filling in the surveys. I asked her to be honest. She said, "Oh, you can be assured I will be honest." I don't know with the tone of voice what she meant by that, but it was a nice conversation to have with her. And you did touch on, again, running about the recycling centres and capacity within that, and then the bulky uplifts. It's important that looking going forward, we certainly have a look at that as well. So just the particular points, Blair, if you don't mind picking up on that. I know that spend, both on the HIP and the SHIP, combined, I think, with 240+ million at the time agreed at in November last year. Over the last couple of years, how has it been going on the HIP spend as well?
Quite a lot there, Blair.
It's a long paper.
Absolutely. I mean, the void, just to reiterate, in terms of void, although it's between 2 years, 1.6 to 0.8, as you highlight it, you can remember being much higher than that at one time. So that's you know, a big saving financial within that. Okay.
Through you, Leader, and I hope I've captured all of your questions, but if I miss any, I wouldn't mind a wee push in the right direction. Okay, so while in the report I referenced 1.6% and 0.8%, in real terms 1.6% in 2024 was just north of 800,000. So we've halved our void rent loss over this period to 400,000, which is your 0.8%. Going back 10 years, actually what's happened is we've reduced void rent loss by £1 million a year. In terms of the waste review, we are on week 15 of 40 on the waste review, and we have delivered bins to just over 15,000 households in the south of the authority. We've rolled out Cumnock, Dalrymple, Patna, Dunmellington, Bellsbank, New Cumnock, Rankinstown, Ochiltree, Drongin, parts of Son, with Catrin and Auchinleck. So we are anticipating that we'll complete the south of the authority in about 5 or 6 weeks, which would include up to and including Auchinleck. which would mean rollout for the north of the authority would start from roughly October time, and that's the targets that we've been aiming to throughout that period. It's actually going, I'm sure there'll be other opinions in it, it's going from my perspective very well in the south of the authority, with real positive comments coming our way. And we also, you'll remember, through the waste review, we had set aside some contingency for people that may require a smaller bin, etc., etc. We have distributed about 300 smaller units for people that require it, so we're responding to the contacts we're getting with, again, you know, people commenting positively in that regard, that that was available to people. So things are going well. It's not without its challenges, but it's moving well, it's on target, and the team are working incredibly hard to ensure that that continues. Moving on to UNCRC. So as a service, we've been really championing our role in UNCRC, particularly the areas that you mentioned. We were at, Councillor Cowan and I and others, colleagues, were at Care Experience Cabinet last night. And actually, you know, the recognition that the service has responded to requests for engaging with young people, particularly around about our antisocial behaviour strategy, was incredibly positive. In regards to engagement with children about new housing developments, the one you reference is George McTurk Court. So we've done, you know, really good engagement in the Barony and other areas to really understand and take children and young people's views on board about the development. So that's really a new dawn for us, and it's something that we've got a real commitment to sustain as we move forward. As we move forward then to inflationary costs for the HIP and the SHIP, so clearly inflation has really a significant and structural impact on investment in Scotland for housing. I read a report by the Scottish Government recently which suggested that inflation costs are up 27% from pre-COVID. So really what that means for us is that £10 million of investment 5 or 6 years ago is now buys us much less. The risks may be moving forward that the housing revenue account may carry significant capital pressures. Borrowing is expensive and that needs to be carefully considered. And further, for future rent increases, will need to be carefully managed. But what I would say, and to give members reassurance, colleagues within the finance team and I really recognised this pressure a number of years ago, sort of COVID time, and we've been working incredibly hard to reduce the debt profile in the housing revenue account. And that's, you know, we've almost seen this coming. Therefore, we've made really good decisions about debt over the last few years, which I hope then provides that pipeline that these programmes can continue, subject to what those inflation levels might be. Your next question round about rough sleeping. So clearly rough sleeping across Scotland is a huge and emerging challenge. In East Ayrshire, I am pleased to note that we don't have an issue with rough sleeping. And where there is an issue of rough sleeping, the services respond really carefully, sensitively, and always with a solution-focused approach to see what we can do to help. And that will always be the way in which we tackle those situations as they arise. In terms of recycling centres and access and bulky uplifts, there will be a paper that comes in the chamber shortly, and I'll leave that paper to set out the detail of that. I think your last question was round about HIP spend over the last 2 years. So the programme is just north of £26 million a year for investment in our existing housing stock. And those have been fully spent in both of those last 2 financial years.
Thanks, Blair. Just a couple of issues there in terms of the waste management rollout. We've got some Doon Valley residents nearby. Well, last time I'm in person, just how they've taken to the process. But seriously, it's good to see that it seems to be going okay, but we've got a wee bit to go yet. And just these things are always difficult to roll out. And just maybe in response to the kind of inflationary costs, I mean, these are incredible figures, and I just say it's not just in the COVID times. I think post-Brexit times is another major reason for this. So we continue to. It's good to see that we've been looking at a long-term eye on this for some time. So, and we continue to do so. Barry.
Thank you, Leader. And just as a note before the Head of Housing and Communities leaves us to go slightly north of here, that you can't really take East Ayrshire at the boy when he refers to Drungan, although Rinkeston, Blair, Rinkeston. But anyway, never mind. Just on the paper, you know, in terms of, and I know everybody else has mentioned the void rent loss. I just want to say that, you know, myself and some of my colleagues in the Labour group went out with housing staff to actually see the condition of some of the properties we get back, and certainly a trend that's emerging across the country, but certainly here as well in East Ayrshire, where you know, a property coming back in quite significant state of disrepair was unusual. It's now becoming much more commonplace, and certainly from the properties that we went to see, it was last year, you know, it's remarkable that you're able to get the voids done quickly, given the state, unfortunately, that we are seeing some properties come back. And I think there is a wider societal issue around that in terms of mental health and welfare, and how we try and get behind these doors. So certainly, you know, the chat process that you're going through and getting staff out, I think, is really, really useful to try and identify these issues. So, you know, absolutely. And £1 million a year reduction in void rent loss is a real key achievement. I can see why East Renfrewshire were very keen to get you, Blair. Anyway, in terms of item 31, page 55, give us some more information in terms of the standalone New Cumnock project, which I know is very close to the Deputy Leader of the Council's heart, and keen just to know if there's any update in that. In terms of our engagement, and we've talked a lot about engagement here, and I think we need to be very careful, and I look to our comms colleagues as well in this, is about how we engage with people. You know, it has changed, but I think in a way that the world has become so reliant on digital technology that actually a bit of face-to-face doesn't go amiss either. And with a lot of things that are coming forward, and I'm mindful of the master plan that will be coming forward as well, or the vision for Kilmarnock Town Centre, how we engage with communities is really important, and make sure we're getting to those hard-to-reach places as well, and making sure we are listening to our young people. So better engagement, you know, good progress, but obviously more to do there. The only point I would then raise would be item 54, and I was pleased certainly when we, you know, Labour Group brought forward an amendment to the budget a few years ago relative to forward spend of the play area programme. You know, see, it's achieved, the play park programme is complete. I think there's a number of communities, though, that would maybe feel a bit shortchanged from that, and I know particularly in the Irvine Valley there are issues around the play areas there, and actually the condition of some of our play areas across Kilmarnock as well, and I'm sure beyond that. You know, I think we do need to maybe have a look at this, and certainly, you know, going into the budget ahead of next year, and undoubtedly another tough time, but hopefully parties in this chamber can come together to look at how we can really improve our play areas further, because I think there is a real need for some further investment and enhance what we've got and improve, and where there is you know, a lack of play provision, that we can do something special there, because it is important. We need to make sure, again, you know, talking about digital technology and getting away from that and getting outside, because we know that that's really key for young people's development. So Blair, just and that's my final opportunity potentially to grill you in the chamber ahead of your leaving us next month. But thanks again.
Through you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Douglas. In terms of point 31 about the housing need and demand assessment, so we did carry out the housing need and demand assessment specifically for the community of New Cumnock, and we presented our findings back. Now, I know the headlines, but I would much rather, if agreeable, go back and refresh my memory of the housing need and demand assessment for that community and update members separately, if that's okay, via briefing note with the detail in that respect. In regards to play parks, yeah, and I can't deny that play parks need investment in East Ayrshire. That would be subject to funding and future decisions by government and council, but I recognise the references that you made. So I'm rather not very specific responses, I'm afraid, Councillor Douglas, but recognising that I will come back to members on the HNDA. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. Just in terms of the Parliamo, East Renfrewshire, we can give a hand with some of the Nielsen, we can give you all these kind of things. But we're glad to take that aside and help you with that. Elaine.
Thank you, Chair. Page 51, item 13, it talks about the work that Housing has done to embed the work of the UNCRC into the service. I just want to bring that to life a wee bit. There's been some incredible support from the Housing Service, and a lot of it is hidden and would never make its way into these sort of reports. So I just want to take the opportunity to pass on my thanks to the Housing colleagues. And also my personal thanks to Blair as he moves on for all the work he's done over the last few years, particularly in the commitment to the Care Experience Cabinet. As it was referenced earlier, we met last night. It meets once a quarter. That's a special group of young people there, and it's up to us to support them. Some recent examples which have been driven by the housing, they were formal letters that went out to the young people, and as we tend to do as an organisation, they're sometimes in the corporate speak. So there was a lot of feedback from the young people on that Care Experience Cabinet, and that was fully taken on board by housing colleagues, and they have redrafted letters and worked in collaboration with those young people. So that's a real key achievement, and it's approved those letters for other young people and also for the general public. Another recent example, there's been the antisocial behaviour survey public consultation that's gone out. Again, from that Care Experience Cabinet, there was feedback that it wasn't really child friendly, and within a matter of days the service turned that around and produced a child friendly version. And we heard last night from Helen Merriman some of the comments and the results from the survey from that demographic, and that can only help improve and influence the policy that we set in this chamber. So thank you to Housing, and thank you to Blair for all his help. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Yeah, that's absolutely right, Helen, to highlight that. It's a key achievement amongst many. Okay, colleagues, Jim, would you want to just go on?
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor Kilman, bringing that up. It's great to hear that. I suppose I pick up on the point that Councillor Douglas made about you coming at that HDNA and having a look at that. I think with the papers that sit in front of us again, and I'll talk about that depopulation and how we tackle that for economic growth and for housing, planning, everything, and no working in silos within this council, is to spread everything out in the implication and the ambition to tackle that depopulation issue that we all need to look at, not just in silos, and where potentially the potential, the drop in population is there, but economic growth, the potential is, and the ambition is there, is to increase our population as well. So it's never forgetting about what the overall council ambition is to tackle that depopulation issue. And just before, in case it is my last opportunity and there's no another paper, it's been an absolute privilege as the spokesperson on housing and communities to be working with Blair since he took up that opportunity. I wish him all the best, and I'll certainly be friends again, and I will lose here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, I think we'd all agree with that. Linda?
Thanks, Leader. I've just got a comment that I really should have made way back at the beginning, because it's about the whole paper. Is it all right just to throw it in and out? I'm looking at the progress categories that are used, and we've got limited progress, some progress, good progress. So how are these determined? I mean, it's like the traffic light system. I hate it, right? Everybody knows I hate it. I don't think it gives you enough information. Like, could we maybe get a wee guide added in? Like, what exactly does some/good progress mean, and what does limited mean? So I'm probably just being a wee bit picky, but I just feel if we're wanting to be able to like know exactly what stage something's at, we just need maybe a wee bit more help.
Picky question, I'll send it to Ian.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Mubin. Our normal convention for this type of report would be a RAG status, red, amber, green, but a long time ago we realised that wasn't cutting it for this, so we did try to introduce that, because the nature of these reports is that a lot of these actions, when they are achieved, that's easy to quantify, but there's so many of them are achieved and ongoing, and that's why we've went with those descriptions. I take the point about perhaps a wee definition of them would be helpful for members. We're happy to do that. We're coming back to the next meeting of Cabinet with the next tranche of these service improvement plans under the Chief Executive's portfolio, so we'll look at doing that for that next meeting then. Thanks. Thanks, Chair.
I've got to action responsibility to transferred, is a wee bit that's a tricky one. Claire, did you want? Sorry, no. Nobody else. Okay, that takes to the end of the presentations. We'll get. Do you want to come in and summarise, or we'll just go straight to recommendations? Just can we agree on recommendations? Okay. Now going to item 3, which is request for community asset transfer, and Angela Graham, right?
Thank you, Leader. Obviously, this paper is looking for recommendations for a number of asset transfers that have been made under the Community Asset Transfer Framework. Obviously, members will be aware that back in April last year, Vibrant Communities transferred to East Ayrshire Leisure Trust, and they continue to provide support to communities going through the process, but it was felt that it was probably more appropriate now that responsibility for the oversight and administration of the asset transfer process best sits with the Head of Facilities and Property Management, because they are the Council's assets. We do still retain that multidisciplinary team that continues to help provide the support in assessing all of the applications. And if the transfers are approved today, that will bring to 78 the number of asset transfers the Council has approved since the adoption of the first Community Asset Transfer Policy. So Table 1 outlines 5 particular transfers that we're looking for recommendations on today. The first is the Dumellington Pavilion, and the Wellington Parish Development Trust here are looking to use the pavilion to provide facilities for their all-inclusive cycle track while still continuing to secure Craigmark Junior's continued occupation of the property. They have now completed their upgrade of the facility, so we're now looking to recommend approving the 10-year lease with the continued provision for Craigmark Juniors. The Cockleby Pitch and Pavilion, Stuart and Alnwick Football Club have came forward again looking to take on the transfer of that facility. They've advised they're primarily wanting to use it for their youth and nine-a-side, and that they're looking to take on the asset so that they can invest in the pavilion and invest in some drainage in the pitch. So we're looking to recommend a 10-year lease and full repairing terms with them, with a management agreement for the pitch. Moving on to Crooked Home Community Centre and Pavilion. Now, this has been operated by Sports Sakai Karate for over 10 years now, who've had a cat lease of the property. So they're now looking to take on ownership so that they can continue their use and continue to invest in the facility. So we're looking to recommend a sale at £40,000, subject to gaining the necessary trust from the consent from the Fields and Trust. Moving on to John Fulton Hall and Fenwick, the Fenwick Community Initiatives currently have a short-term management arrangement of that. They have invested in the facility. They've been successful in getting funding through the Place-Based Investment Fund, and they're looking to move to a lease to allow them to continue their use and continue to further invest in the facility. So the terms we're looking is for a 10-year lease on a full repairing basis, but with an initial 3-year rent-free period until they're in a sustainable revenue position. Moving on to New Mills Townhouse, the New Mills Regeneration Trust have long had aspirations to take on this facility to refurbish a facility that sits in a prominent location within the town. They've already secured significant funding through REF, so we're now looking to recommend a sale of the townhouse and the associated land for £1 if asked, subject to us securing title and the court authority to sell the property. In terms of implications, it's just worthwhile outlining in paragraphs 12 to 14 there are a couple of legal implications in respect of each of the transfers. With the Dumellington Pavilion, we'll terminate the lease with East Ayrshire Leisure before moving into the new lease, which will be subject to Craigmark Junior's continued provision. outlining the Crooked Home Community Centre and Pavilion Fields and Trust consent. New Mills Townhouse Legal are continuing to work to secure the title, and once this is done, we'll need to obtain court authority because the property sits on the Common Good Register. 15 and 16 outline some of the financial implications. There'll be a small income coming into the council for these facilities, but paragraph 16 outlines the savings that will be incurred for the council and Ayrshire 360 if these transfers are approved. So just really looking to seek Cabinet approval to the transfers outlined in Table 1. Happy to take any questions.
I was just going to comment, it's good to see, I always support the growth of the national sport football there, and good to see that helped to Craig Mark Burtonians and Stuart Nannick improve. I know both clubs are thriving at the moment, and it's good to see that helps them continue to grow. Just in terms of the Crooked Home, just in terms of that 40,000, how did we come to that figure, Angela?
So we would have looked at what rental that they're currently paying. Obviously, the CAP policy says that we will transfer it for 10% of the market value or such other percentages deemed appropriate. So it would have been assessed on that basis.
Right, okay. Sorry. In terms of I was making special mention of the New Mills Townhouse. I know that's been in the go for some time, and I know that it's a key feature of the main street in New Mills, and I know the community will be absolutely desperate to get in and get some transformational work in there, and that's really good to see. That was all I was going to say. I've got Barry, Jim, Claire.
Thank you, Leader, through yourself. Angela, thank you for the report. Particular mention, if you allow me to be parochial for a second, in terms of the Crooked Home Community Centre. I assume that the issue here is for the footpath that's required to provide access from the Leverett Lee, the car park side, Meadowside, into the community centre. And I know certainly from the car parking bays and the road widening there, and it's well documented that traffic is an issue around the club when there's kids getting in, and parking is an issue. So I assume is this what you're saying, subject to the consent? Because as I say, I know the works that I undertook, and myself and former councillor Fiona Campbell had been involved in seeking improvements on Grigor Road in the last term of this council that only in the last year got done, and I know a lot of that was because of the widening on the King George V play area fields. So I wondered if that's the delay here, and obviously how are we going to wait until that's in place? And I know you're saying it's subject to, but I just want to make sure because that needs done first. We want to make sure that's done. Thanks, Angela.
Okay, Councillor Douglas, that's not been a particular issue that's been raised with me. What we will do is we'll make sure that the final footprint will address these issues. The consent that we need is the Fields and Trust, because the property is held as a legal title, so we need their consent because the pavilion sits in the football pitch area, so we'll look at making sure that point's picked up.
Just on that, Chair, if that's okay, I think if we can maybe do a bit of digging and find out if indeed, as I say, I'm sure the title did provide access, or there seemed to be a bit of dubiety about that in terms of the car park and Meadowside, then let's make sure that is in place, and anything that needs done and support there to make sure that occurs, I think is important before we do anything in terms of selling off this particular property. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Jim.
Thanks for the paper, Angela. Again, I think the community asset transfer framework, the full framework, gives the communities the opportunities, which we've seen again here, to take on these buildings, to improve the buildings, to create potentially jobs through taking these as well, so it's a fantastic opportunity. 78, I think, since that framework, it says in the paper since we started, that's me going back 10 years again today. So I was no longer in the council when we started that community asset framework, so delighted to see 78. I think, with the exception of one, I think they're all still in the community group's hands, so is that still the case?
Perhaps, I think there is, yeah, you're right, there is only one of the assets that we transferred that is no longer being operated by a community group today.
Okay. Claire.
Thank you very much, Leader, and Angela. Thank you so much for this paper. And I was actually going to say what Jim just said about our community asset transfers. When I first started here, this was very new. But I've always had the assurance from Angela that these are successful and sustainable. And of course, we have the biggest community asset transfer in Scotland with Centre Stage. What I think is really interesting, when you look at page 70, just at the end of the paper, is the financial implications are obviously very small in terms of what the council looks at in terms of sums of money. However, it's actually quite hard to put a price on just how successful these are. And of course, it integrates into the community wealth building. And the link between community wealth building and the community asset transfers, I think, is really, really obvious when you see this paper. And of course, it was the Scottish Government was the first in the world to implement CWB into its governance. And I think we can see that trickling down into the councils as well. So I think this is an excellent report, and it's great to see. How many was it, Jim? 79? 78, 80. So thank you very much, Angela. An excellent paper.
Thanks, Claire. Okay, anyone else? Okay, can we go back and agree the recommendations? Okay, and Marion now, I believe, with the Corporate Parent Action Plan Progress Report.
Thanks, Chair. So what we have is the Corporate Parenting Action Plan Annual Progress Report of the 3-year plan. Paragraphs 3 to 7 just set out some of the background information and the legislative context of the action plan. Worthy of note that the action plan is produced by a group of corporate parents, not just one or two. So we have a collaborative approach as set out in the legislation. And the Corporate Parent Strategic Group is the forum for implementing the 3-year plan. Just to note, the plan has already been to the Community Planning Partnership in June of this year, so really today for profiling and noting for you guys. In terms of some of the key areas that I want to point out, it's got 5 key priority areas. Within those 5 key priority areas, there are 60 actions. Of those, at the point of reporting, 31 have been completed, 10 are making good progress, 14 are making reasonable progress, and 5 have still to be started. Checking today, the progress of the plan is at 74%. Just picking up out a couple of the key areas in each of the priorities. The first area being moving on, and that's about supporting young people move on through good and effective early transition planning, through the support of aftercare, continuing care, and looking to achieve some really positive housing outcomes, some of which we've already heard of earlier on today. So appreciation to colleagues in housing and the work that they've engaged with in relation to that. This area has made really excellent progress and was 93.5% complete. One of the areas I want to profile is the work that we've had on a long-standing basis and in collaboration with colleagues in housing with the Blue Triangle Association. With that collaboration, we're able to provide 11 young people with a variety of supported accommodation to support their transition onto their own tenancies. In addition to that, and picking up from some of the positivity from earlier, at the point of reporting, 23 properties were allocated to care experienced young people through the Strategic Needs Group in the last year. And within that, the tenancy sustainment is 100%. And I think most significantly, which is not captured in the report, but I know something that Blair's super proud of, is that the quality of tenancy allocated to our young people has significantly changed for the better. So again, a great appreciation to colleagues in relation to that. Second area is priority area 2, and that's relationships. Again, within that, there are 7 actions, 3 of which have been completed. 1 is making good progress, and 1 that is yet to have started. Completion is 61.4%. And again, some of the areas we'd like to profile is around the ongoing implementation of science and safety and healing, and that's a relationship and restorative-based model. We've seen a significant increase in the amount of family time and old money, that was contact, either through the court or the children's hearing, but also it's just quite simply a child's right to retain contact with their brothers and sisters and family. So that impacts on some of the capacity. But also another area, positive area of work has been the development of the care experience lead teacher model in East Ayrshire, and that's been funded through the Scottish Attainment Fund for care experience young people, and starting to see some positive impacts in relation to that. Priority area 3 is poverty, and that's recognising that our care experience population can be can have compounded adversities that impact on them due to their care experience. In relation to progress, 11 actions exist under this theme. 1 is completed, 2 is making good progress, and there are 3 actions that are yet to be started, with progress at 35.5%. I think it's worth noting that this is an area of significant focus across a range of work streams, and in particular around the new child poverty action plan, which I think will pick up some of the actions that have not been progressed through this work stream. Some of the key areas that have been developed and are in ongoing development are around the welfare rights service and the pathways that exist into that service, and how young people can access them. One of our areas of challenge, which comes under poverty, is our children in the children's houses still struggle to access Wi-Fi. Again, an ongoing area of focus and intervention. So moving on to priority area 4 is health and wellbeing, and that's about recovery, really. There are 9 actions under this theme, 6 are completed, and 2 making good progress. Again, progress in relation to this area is positive at 88.3%. Some of the highlights include the work around trauma, our work around health safety checks, and the work around supporting the neurodiversity and understanding around neurodiversity. Priority action 5, celebrating youth, and I think there's a strong feeling that we should celebrate youth very loudly. And of the 10 actions that were within this theme, 2 are completed, 3 are making good progress, and 1 action is yet to have commenced. 48% completion rate at the point of reporting. There's a focus on children's voice and choice and participation in this priority area, with a strong focus on UNCRC. Some areas for focus is around the participation leader, meeting with all our young people, not only in our internal children's houses, but also in our external provision. And that's been a really positive area of work. The plan also focuses on some of the areas of the promise as well. I'm happy to take any questions. As I said, the recommendations are, as they always are, in paragraph 2, and it's to note the progress made and also to note that the final report will be delivered to the Community Planning Partnership next year at its conclusion. Thank you.
Thanks, Marion. Just 1 point, just in terms of the opportunity with Jim to go down to the Blue Triangle project. It was great to see some of the work that was going on with the young people and from the young people. And what really amazed me was the combined support that the young people on the web that they have within their own mutual support group. They're very much peer group learning and giving each other advice and assistance and building these contacts up, because young people will listen to other young people more than they'll listen to older folk, but it's great to just see foster that atmosphere where they can. It was really, and being able to support them through these difficult times and allow access to apprenticeships and to skills and other things that it wouldn't otherwise be. The door would be shut for them, so it's really good to see that. And good also to see in terms of what work we're doing with the promise as well, just in how we can support that. And I think that needs to continue. Okay, a number of folk. I've got Barry, I've got Elaine, Linda, Claire. Okay.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you for the report. A few questions for you, Marion. So just first of all, how are resources being prioritised to protect and support our care experienced children and young people? Are any of the financial pressures that we're experiencing putting any parts of the action plan at risk, and what has been done to mitigate that and manage that? How are care experienced children and young people being regularly involved and listened to meaningfully? And I'm not just talking about the care experience cabinet. We have kids who will not want to engage with that. And how have they been told what changes have been made and as a result of their feedback? Make sure that they're getting clear how they've influenced services as well. I think some clear evidence showing that their impact and influence would be really useful. In paragraphs 8, 15 to 17 and 21 to 23, and maybe it's for out with this meeting, it's maybe something you can send on to us in a briefing note. Can we have a bit more detail on the actions that are delayed and only partly completed and associated impacts in those? And what is the real-life impact on issues such as digital poverty and foster care recruitment and placement stability? Again, quite a lot there. I'm not asking for answers to it all now, but I think perhaps a bit more detail required. And if you can maybe send it in a members' briefing to Cabinet members, that would be useful, Marion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In terms of how do we prioritise resources for our care experienced young people, you'll see in the report it makes reference to the moving on and continuing care team. Prior to that team being established, the arrangements for supporting our care experienced young people was within our locality teams. So within that, they were managing children who were on the Child Protection Register, children who were coming to the attention of the police perhaps, and children who are subject to supervision orders at home. So recognising that actually in a world of competing priorities, perhaps some of our older but still vulnerable care experienced young people were not getting what they needed. We looked at what the resources were at our disposal and have this team now where all our care experienced young people are allocated within the team, either directly or have a named person that they can contact up to the age of 26. So we've redesigned our resources internally in order to ensure that there's a priority around our care experienced population. Your next point was around how our care experienced young people being listened to. Obviously, we do have a number of mechanisms to engage with care experienced young people. Probably the one that's got the most profile is the Care Experience Cabinet. But sitting beneath the Care Experience Cabinet are groups like Art Club, which have a number of young people coming in and out of it, and whose voices are heard through that mechanism. They may not come to the Care Experience Cabinet, but they definitely influence the work of it. We also have advocacy through Who Cares Scotland, who engage with all of our children and young people, and separately Scottish Government fund Advocacy Direct in terms of children's hearing through East Ayrshire Advocacy. And again, the voice of young people is heard through their advocates. In fact, a young person emailed me last week around something that was really close to his heart through his advocate in relation to time with his brother. And maybe not something his brother wanted, but something that was really important to him, and we were able to find a way forward with that. So the voice of young people is definitely being heard, but we can always do better when it comes to hearing young people and listening to them and acting on what they tell us. Over the last number of years, there's been a variety of activities that we've undertaken in terms of the Hope Hackathon, Bright Spots, our engagement with Celsius, that consistently tell us the same message, and that's what's influenced very much the current corporate parenting action plan. Hope that answered that question. Changes as a result of the feedback. How do we feed that back? Through the Care Experience Cabinet. That was really powerful last night for young people to hear what they said at the previous Cabinet had influenced the change in the survey approach. But not only that, it's not only influenced the change in that survey, it's influenced our thinking around how we do every survey and how we make them child friendly. So that feedback loop is completed in that kind of a way. And I think I've missed a couple of the points that you've...
Just to come back, and as I say, I think it was more just that how we're getting to those maybe harder to reach young people, who are not engaging through some of the methods that we would want them to engage. And again, we're talking about communication, talking about engagement. It's about how we get that beyond the kind of usual suspects in every walk of life that come back to us or will always tell us how they feel. Let's make sure we're actually hearing from them and we're feeding back to them, because it's so important that they feel valued as they should be. I think the other points were around a bit more evidence, and I think, as I say, a bit more detail, and that's probably not something that you've got today, that maybe do as a briefing on the actions that are delayed and how they're having any impact. And what was the other one? How we are making sure that those young people are realise that their feedback is important and that we are taking account of what they're telling us to make sure that they are shaping policy. And I think probably one beyond that was any of the financial pressures that are being put in parts of the action plan, and if any of those are at risk, and what we're doing to manage that. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so I do actually have a bit of detail. In terms of some of the actions that are not particularly progressed, some of those are related to training. For example, one is about training panel members on family time and the importance of family time when it comes to brothers and sisters. So that's an engagement with ourselves and Scottish Children's Reporters Administration and factoring that in. Some of the delays around welfare rights and finance is quite simply in relation to some of the work that's happening around the welfare rights team in its new guise and developing pathways. So how do we create effective, quick, seamless referral pathways into that team for our care experience young people? So those referral pathways are being developed and worked on at the moment. Some other areas in relation to the lack of progress relate to the Wi-Fi in the children's houses, but also young people who are in what we call in that kind of transition pathway planning process around access to devices. So how are we supporting the access of devices to ensure that they are digitally connected? And the kind of last most significant area where there isn't a great deal of development relates to the rollout of training for trauma-informed, trauma-responsive practice. So whilst they are significant, they're about upskilling the workforce, and a few of them are about upskilling the workforce in terms of knowledge and development. So that provides a bit of clarity, but we will put all of that in a briefing for you as well.
Thanks, Elaine.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Marion. I think this is a very useful report to bring to Cabinet, even though it goes to Community Plan Partnership. It's useful to see that breadth of work that gets done by yourself and your team. And it would be remiss of me not to also acknowledge the personal commitment that you put into last night and indeed over the last few years into the Care Experience Cabinet. It is difficult to engage with young people, but I see that we are moving in the right direction. And in particular, one of the areas that I'm really interested to see how we're going to develop is the Care Experience Lead Teacher model, and I know we discussed that last night, so keen to see how that's going to develop. So perhaps that could be a future council conversation once we've got that embedded more of some of the results coming through, because that's probably in that education sphere is where officers and teachers can have that one-to-one connection and build up some of those relationships. Some of the examples that you mentioned, the Hope Hackathon, I know it took us a while to get the results back, but that was an external organisation. That was an extremely helpful event, and I know the young people enjoyed that, and also the Bright Spots survey that you mentioned as well. That I know that was well received, but I think it's just one of these things. It's a bit like communication. I don't think we'll ever reach the bar on it. You just need to keep striving in that area. So thank you, Marion.
Okay. Thanks, Celine. Linda.
Thanks, Leader. Just a couple of wee points, Marion. On the report, page 1993, one referring to poverty and one celebrating youth, the percentage achieved at these, they seem really low compared to some of the other areas. So just wondering if you're taking actions or there's any more detail. My other wee question is, if I take you to page 98, which I think is page 21 of your report, there's a chart on it, and at the bottom of the chart it refers to the 4 schools when it's talking about the attendance, but there's only 3 schools listed. And for the life of me, I've tried to work out how you get that percentage, and I can't do it. So, are we missing a school, or is there something else there?
Thank you. Yes, there's an error in the report. We are missing a school. It's Grange, and this is a direct. Obviously, you can imagine there's a lot of partners involved, so this is a direct lift from our colleagues in education. So we're trying to understand how we've missed Grange. Although there's a confidence that the headlines around the statistics that's in that section of the report are accurate. It's just been taken off the table. But we're double checking that at the moment. It's just been picked up. And in relation to the progress, so a number of the actions are interrelated to a headline action. So the headline action, in terms of the areas that are not progressing in the way that we'd want them to, around welfare rights, for example. So because one area has not progressed, the areas that sit beneath them are sitting at 0%. So it's not that there isn't an area, it's not an area of focus. It is. I can see from the reporting it is a significant area of focus. It's just about the development of the team and the referral pathways that I mentioned earlier that are not 100%. So we're not recording it as that, so it's not reflected in the progress. So the work is ongoing, it's not delayed in any way, shape or form. It is absolutely progressing. And we would anticipate that progress will change quite dramatically.
Okay, thanks. Claire? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Marion. An excellent paper. It doesn't shy away from everything that you have to face as well. So thank you for that. A lot of what I wanted to ask has been answered. So just a quick run through here is as Councillor Barry Douglas talked about, the digital connection and devices and the Wi-Fi in the children's houses. These seem like very easy fixes. I'm hoping your face says no. However, I do think that was something that we could have fixed quite easily. It's so important that these young people stay connected for homework digitally with their friends. We know how important our devices are as adults, so as children it's even more important. So I would like to see some sort of timescale added to how quickly we can fix that. The housing, the 100% sustainability, has to be recommended. And I know one young lady who has stayed in her house for three years now and is now a student. She was supported from the age of 16. There is incredible work that goes on behind the scenes here that we just don't see. And my last point is I want to give a shout out to the Art Club, because these people are not silent, but when I first met them they were some of the quietest children that I had ever come across, and they expressed themselves so well through their art. And I think I've had 4 or 5 exhibitions I've had the pleasure of opening with, and I would encourage all members and staff to support the Art Club. What they do is something extra special. I know we have a lot of facilities out there, but the Art Club is something special, and I'm a bit biased. So thank you.
Thank you. I wish I could say that the resolution to children's houses was simple. It's not. It's really complicated. We're working on it and have been for quite a long time. I'm an optimist, so hopefully we'll get there. We'll definitely keep you up to date on that. And just a point on Art Club, I think whilst they might be quiet, they talk through their art, and some of the art's really powerful and some of the poetry's really powerful. I think one of our young people read a poem out, not of the Care Experience Cabinet there, but the previous one. That took a lot of courage and it was incredibly powerful. So they might be quiet, but they are definitely mighty in their impact. Thanks.
Okay, excuse me. Anyone else? Okay, I've just going to maybe mention, just in terms of the page 93, celebrating youth, it continues to be a challenge for us. It really does. There's still that prejudice and some of the things that we see and the way young people are referred to, and we've got to keep our eye on the ball there and give them as much support and encouragement as we can, but improve communications and perceptions. I think that's still important to us.
No, thank you. I think that's really important. I think we need to celebrate youth, and we need to create communities where young people can have fun. And young people are really good at holding each other to account as well. So this will be an ongoing area of focus for us, because actually our young people are brilliant.
Eric, did you want to come in?
Yeah, it was just a point around about context for the report. So this is partway through the delivery timeframe, and we'd expect further progress to be made before we get to the deadline of delivery of 2027. And also, I think it's really strong in terms of the multi-agency working that's required to deliver such a programme. So just to recognise that some of the challenges that are in the themes are really big ticket things that we need absolutely multi-agency delivery on. Poverty being one of them, which we know requires all public agencies and third sector to be fully aligned to delivery of mitigating action against that. So I think it's just the context of what Marion's been saying in relation to that is important, that folk recognise this is partway through, and some of the challenges we've got are significant multifactorial challenges. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, thanks, colleagues, for the thoroughly good debate on all of these points. And can we go back to the recommendations at the start of the paper? And can we agree recommendations? Okay, thank you.